StudyIQ IAS. अब तैयारी हुई अफोर्डेबल.
Hello, Namaskar, Namaskar. My name is Pooja Dwivedi. Welcome to my class, The Daily Current Affairs, where we are going to learn significant events of the past 24 hours which are relevant from the perspective of your UPSC examination. Do not make notes because I provide the notes through the current PDF that I'm using through my Telegram channel that is by the name of Pooja Dwivedi UPSC. If you have any questions regarding this examination, you can also connect with me through my Instagram channel. Alright, let's move forward, and these are the various topics that we are going to cover today. Last time I asked you a question with respect to Anduri Mahotsav or Anduri Utsav, and many of you have answered it correctly. So let's solve it together. Those who have answered it correctly, by the end of this class, I will take your names. Anduri Utsav is celebrated in Madhya Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan. It is celebrated as Butter Festival in the Uttarkashi district of Uttarakhand. So the correct answer will be option B, Uttarakhand. The Anduri Utsav or Butter Festival is celebrated specifically with respect to Dayara Bugyal of Uttarkashi district. Bugyal means a meadow or a pasture. And Dayara Bugyal is situated at an altitude of 11,000 feet above the sea level. And as you can see, here is the Uttarkashi district where it is celebrated. Earlier, this was celebrated by throwing cow dung at each other, but later on, this was substituted with either butter or milk or buttermilk. And this is celebrated in order to thank the lords to keep their watchful eyes over the cattle. Cattle is a very important asset of those who live in the Pahari areas or the Himalayan regions. So the villagers of Raithal believe that Lord Krishna and Bugyal Mata, they keep their watchful eyes over them, and that is why it is a thanking process. All right. So P2I batches have been launched. Many of them have been launched, and one more is coming. It is coming on the 23rd of August. This will be an evening batch, 6 p.m. onwards. It's a P2I batch. That means prelims, mains, interviews. All three phases are completely covered. Those students specifically who will be selected for the UPSC prelims examination, as if they will qualify the UPSC 2024 prelims, they will be called to the StudyIQ campus where they will prepare for the mains examination. After that, we have the interviews. All right. So everything will be prepared over here. It is a very good batch for those students who do not have any strategy as of yet how to prepare for this examination. One correct decision to take an admission in such a batch can literally change your trajectory. So make sure you be a part of this batch, English, Hindi and English. There are 3 different batches. According to the suitability of your language, you can choose one. I will be taking up classes in these batches, so make sure that you do subscribe to this batch and just use the code PDLive to make sure that you get this particular batch at 29,999. All other courses are also available at a discounted rate when you use the code PDLive. Okay, 23rd August is the date. Make sure you take an admission so that we can send you the study material as soon as possible. Everything is covered over here. Moving on, with respect to Indo-Greek relations, consider the following statements. Greece has been the chief guest at the Republic Day ceremony only once. Indian diaspora in Greece is estimated to be around 50,000. Greece voted for India's candidature for UNSC in 2021-2022. So, how many statements given above is or are correct? Now, UPSC is very unpredictable, we all know that. But you have to ensure that you know each and everything, so that if somebody or someday the change of pattern occurs and new kind of questions come to the fore, you are not stumped. So it is important for me to prepare you from that perspective. Recently, because of the Prime Minister's visit that is set to take place after the BRICS summit, he will visit Athens as well. It will be for the first time ever in the last 40 years that a Prime Minister of India is going there. And that is why this is very important for us to know. So, Greece has been the chief guest at the Republic Day ceremony only once. That is definitely correct, in 1986. Before that, before Prime Minister Modi, former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi ji visited. And in the funeral of Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, Greece also visited India in 1984. After that in 1985 and then 1986. So, we had really good relations with Greece. Greece has always stood by India's side, and that is why it is very important to honor our friends with such high-level visits. Indian diaspora in Greece is estimated to be around 11,000 to 14,000. This is the range, current range. It's not 50,000. Most of them are Sikhs and from Punjab. And of course, they are, the thing is that we have to also know the composition of the diaspora. So you know that as well. They mostly work in the Indian diaspora, mostly work in farms and factories over there. So first is correct, second is incorrect. Third, Greece voted for India's candidature. For UNSC for 2021-22, this is also correct. So apart from second, first and third are correct, two only will be the correct answer. Prime Minister Modi is scheduled to visit Athens after the BRICS summit, and former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi ji visited in September 1983. Then the Greek Prime Minister Andreas Papandreou, they visited India 3 times. 1984 during the funeral of Indira Gandhi ji, then January 1985 for a conference on nuclear disarmament, and then January 1986 as the chief guest for the Republic Day ceremony. Alright, so remember that. These are the many islands of Greece, and here is Athens. And it is situated around many important seas which are a part of the Mediterranean Sea, like the Aegean Sea, which lies between Turkey and Greece. It is also a point of contention, this sea between Turkey and Greece. Then Ionian Sea is over here, which is a part of the Mediterranean Sea itself. Alright, so here the Prime Minister will go. We know that Alexander the Great, invaded India when nation wasn't a concept. But we are showing you that we have relations with Greeks, as in we have had historical interactions with Greeks since the times. Many thousands years of relations are going on, cultural, historical, all sorts of relations. A very important battle was fought between Porus and Alexander the Great. That was the Battle of Hydaspes, which is of course the Jhelum River. Many places I saw that it was Bias, but if you go to the authentic websites, you will find it to be Jhelum. Okay, moving on. Diplomatic relations between these two countries were built in the year 1950. Greece opened its embassy in Delhi in 1950, but India did it so in 1978. Greece also participated in Six Nation Delhi Declaration of 1985 on nuclear disarmament, on various controversial events and incidents such as Citizenship Amendment Act, National Registration of Citizens, abrogation of Article 370, reorganization of UT of JK and Ladakh, judgment of Ram Janmabhoomi and Babri Masjid. All these were called as an internal affair of India by Greece, where the West generally has a very strong stance. Both the countries pledged reciprocal support for election to the non-permanent seat in UNSC. Greece also voted for India's candidature in 2021-22. On J&K, its outlook, it reflects our concerns. So it's a good friend of India. According to the 2011 Greek census, the number of Indian communities is more than 11,000, but currently it is estimated to be between 13,000 to 14,000, 11 to 14, this could be the range. Predominantly, people are from Punjab. Largely, they are Sikhs. Most Indians work at farms, factories, or as construction workers. Okay, and this is the trade relations that India has with Greece, and it is constantly rising up. It's a good trade relation, but we have a lot of potential to explore right now. Moving on, consider the following statements. Biogenic carbon is mostly regarded as preferable to non-biogenic carbon, given the fact that it can be replenished more readily than its counterpart. Any emission from their combustion are theoretically carbon neutral. So, what do we have to select is from here only. Biogenic carbon is is stored in living things. During the process of their life, they store carbon with the help of photosynthesis, and once they die or decay, they release it slowly. And theoretically, if we go by the theoretic nature, if supposedly a tree dies or a tree is cut and then that tree is burnt or combusted, then carbon will go into the atmosphere. But if we replace it by planting one more tree, then it will be carbon neutral theoretically. Practically, why it is not happening right now? Because we do not plant as much trees as we should be doing in order to replace the ones we have already cut. So theoretically it is there, and that is why it is more preferable than non-biogenic. Non-biogenic carbon is the carbon that is stored in fossil fuels, coal, oil, natural gas, and they cannot be replenished very fast. Once they are combusted, what happens? The carbon is in the atmosphere, but it is very hard for them to be stored back. So that is why biogenic carbon is much more preferable for this very reason. So both the statements are correct, and statement 2 is correctly explaining statement 1, because this is the reason why we are saying that yes, biogenic carbon is better. So both the statements are correct, and statement 2 correctly explains statement 1. Why have I given you this question? Because the government of India has given the green light to the National Green Hydrogen Mission which says that we have to produce at least 5 million metric ton of green hydrogen annually. What is green hydrogen? I will get into that as well. And this is going to create a lot of space for India to fulfill the promise of becoming a net zero carbon economy by the year 2070. Net zero economy, net zero carbon emission economy means that while we are emitting carbon, it cannot be possible that we stop emitting carbon by 2070. But whatever carbon we are emitting, we are also storing it. We are sequestering it, and this step will be in the correct direction, as in we are going to use green hydrogen in order to ensure that our economic development, the kind of energy that is needed for our economic development, is continuously being met by green hydrogen. We are not dependent upon coal, we are not dependent upon natural gas or oil or imported energy. We are becoming Atmanirbhar Bharat in the energy sector through this as well. That is why India has declared the goal to achieve net zero emissions. I've told you that energy use has doubled in the last 20 years. It is expected to grow by at least another 25% because of the demography that India is living through. Young generation, very aspirational generation. Indians economics, it is boosting. So that is why we need energy for developing infrastructure, for developing more industries, for ensuring that service sector doesn't get lagged behind. India currently imports over 40% of the primary energy needs. And that is why we need to ensure that we become independent and not dependent on any country, specifically in the current volatile situation. So green hydrogen is prepared with the help of electrolysis, and the electricity which we get is from renewable energy. It happens when electrolysis or electricity, we can call it electricity, is used to split water molecule into hydrogen molecule and oxygen molecule. And when the electricity that is used for electrolysis of water in order to produce these is sourced from renewable energy, which is not, of course, coal, oil, natural gas, then that is green hydrogen. Okay, if we did not do it from renewable energy, it wouldn't be green hydrogen, it would be gray hydrogen, and gray hydrogen is not suitable for the current economic structure. Okay, although we are highly dependent on that currently. Stringent criteria has been announced for green hydrogen production. Like for electrolysis, the cumulative non-biogenic greenhouse gas emission, which is associated with water treatment, electrolysis, gas purification, and the subsequent hydrogen drying and compressing, it should not be greater than 2 kg of carbon dioxide, which is equivalent per kilogram of hydrogen. It is calculated at an average of previous 12 months period. And in order to ensure that whatever hydrogen we are producing, it is also meeting certain standards, the Bureau of Energy Efficiency is entrusted with this particular role. It will make sure that this agency will be monitoring, verifying, certifying the projects which are involved in the process of ensuring that green hydrogen increases, the production of it increases. Biogenic carbon is absorbed and stored by the flora and fauna of our planet, not fauna, as a natural consequence of its lifestyle. When they die, the carbon is slowly released, and hence it can be theoretically replaced by planting more trees, which is not very possible for non-biogenic carbon. You combust it like that, too much carbon in the atmosphere, you cannot store it. It cannot be replenished as well. That is why. With respect to the Katchatheevu island, consider the following statements. It is a product of 14th century volcanic eruption. Historically, it has always been a part of South Indian kingdoms, and Sri Lanka never had any control over it. Katchatheevu was given away to Sri Lanka without consulting the Tamil Nadu State Assembly. So what do we have to see? Which ones are not correct? Katchatheevu is an island which was given away in quote unquote. I am not saying it. It was written as it was given away by the Indira Gandhi government to Sri Lanka. Tamil Nadu specifically was very upset. Lots of protests happened. And Tamil Nadu wasn't happy with this because it wasn't consulted. The state legislative assembly wasn't consulted. The fishermen of Tamil Nadu were highly dependent on this region for fisheries. So it becomes really hard for any state to let go of its resources, right? That is why Katchatheevu was, this is the reason why Tamil Nadu still is not hasn't come in terms with this. So Tamil Nadu's State Assembly's consultation wasn't done. So this is definitely correct. Then Katchatheevu is actually new in the geological time scale. It got developed only during 14th century volcanic activity. Earlier, Jaffna kingdom of Sri Lanka also had a control over it. Later on, it was passed on to the South Indian kingdoms, and later on, during the British times, also it was a part of the Madras presidency. So it means first is correct, third is correct, second is not correct. What do we have to see? How many are not correct? One only will be the not correct one. Retrieving the Katchatheevu islet from Sri Lanka alone would be a permanent solution to all the problems of fishermen in Tamil Nadu. This has been said by the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu. And Katchatheevu, this issue was raised in the parliament when the Prime Minister was giving a speech about the no confidence motion. And that is why it is important for us to know this. It's a 285-acre uninhabited speck of island in the Park Street. And you can see it is very small over here. It is to the northeast of Rameswaram, 33 kilometers away, and here are the Mannar Islands to the northwest of it. We have the Katchatheevu from the Mannar Island. And you can see that this region, specifically if we talk about this region, currently it is very important. Why? Because of China's presence in the Indian Ocean. If this was ours, we could at least enable naval ships over here. But the thing is that back then it wasn't such a big deal to the Indian government that China could be present in such a huge amount, in such a huge magnitude in the Indian Ocean. So this is the problem as well. It is no more than 1.6 kilometer in length, very small, slightly over 300 meter wide at its broadest point. Northeast of Rameswaram, it is 33 kilometers away from the Indian coast, 62 kilometers southwest of Jaffna. Alright, and only one structure is there. This is the St. Anthony's Church. It's a Catholic church. It has extreme religious significance for the Catholic Christians of not only Sri Lanka but also India. So annual visits also take place to the St. Anthony's Church. It is uninhabited otherwise because there is no water resource over here, drinking water resource. Okay, it is relatively new and it is a product of 14th century volcanic eruption. In the early medieval period, it was controlled by the Jaffna kingdom of Sri Lanka. 17th century control passed to the Ramnath Zamindari based out in Ramanathapuram. We couldn't call it exactly South Indian kingdom, but of course the Ramnath Zamindari. Okay, so it became a part of the Madras presidency during the British Raj, but in 1921 this was used as a demarcation in order to continue fishing over there. And the dispute wasn't settled until 1974. In 1974, Indira Gandhi made attempts to settle the maritime border between India and Sri Lanka once and for all. And as a part for what? Under which part? As a part of the India-Sri Lanka Maritime Agreement, Indo-Sri Lanka Maritime Agreement, and this was ceded to Sri Lanka. Indian fishermen were still allowed to access Katchatheevu Haidetu. Unfortunately, the issue of fishing rights was not ironed out, and this still remains. So Katchatheevu was given away to Sri Lanka, as it is called by the politicians, to Sri Lanka without consulting the Tamil Nadu State Assembly, and historical control was of the Ramanath Zamindari over the island. That is why Tamil Nadu wasn't happy with it, right? Moving on, which of the following is not a part of the core group of the ESA's tracking station network, ES-Track? Goldstone, Kiruna, Redu, Santa Maria. Do you know that ESA's ES-Track is using the antennas of different countries, as in to help the Chandrayaan to orbit and after that landing as well. That is why it is important to know about ES-Track. So Goldstone is one of the, you can say, stations which is a part of ES-Track, but it is not a part of the core group. Core group is present only in 7 countries. So apart from Kiruna, Reddu, Santa Maria, these 3 are a part of the core group, but Goldstone is not. Option A will be the correct over here. Since the launch of the Chandrayaan 3, ESA has been supporting the mission by utilizing of the 2 of the ground station in the ES-Track network. Right now 2, after landing, during the process of landing, 1 more will be used. So ES-Track ground stations, it is the global system of ground stations. Supposedly this is the satellite, this is Earth. There are different stations which actually talk with the satellite, communicate in order to make sure that it is maneuvering in the right path, providing links between the satellite in orbit and ESOC. ESOC means European Space Operations Center, that is situated in Germany. And the core network comprises of 7 stations and 7 countries. Okay, how is it being used? First is Kourou. Kourou in the French Guiana, the ESA's 15-meter antenna, as well as the Goonhilly Earth Station of UK. It is being used for technical support to ensure that Chandrayaan 3 is maneuvering or orbiting correctly. Then, after the orbiting is done, when lander will be in its final descent towards the surface of the moon, ESA's 35-meter deep space antenna in New Norcia, which is in Australia, will help it land. Okay, so continuous communication is being done by 2 right now because of the geometry and view ship that is going on right now between these 2 stations and the Chandrayaan 3. And finally, during the descent phase, the New Norcia one also will come into place. Right now we have Kourou and of course 7 core networks: Kourou, Kiruna, Redu, Cerebros, New Norcia. New Norcia will come when it is the time of landing over here. It is situated in Australia. Okay. Also we have Santa Maria over here and Malagu, which is for deep space. So the blue ones we see are the major core ones. That is Malague over here, Kourou, then Santa Maria, then we have Cebreros, Redu, Kiruna, and finally New Norcia. So I hope you understood how it works. Others are also there, like Goldstone is here and it is in the cooperative network. 7, you just have to remember 7. Okay, moving on. The Al-Shuwaikh Port is situated in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, UAE, Oman. So the correct answer to this question will be Kuwait. Here is the Al-Shuwaikh Port. Why is it in the news? Because INS Vishakhapatnam is docked there. And this is a people-to-people exchange or contact activity that is taking place. It's a 3-day dock. Okay, so that is why I asked you this question. Which of the following is the agenda for BRICS Summit 2023? UPSC can stump you with very close looking options as well. It is just trying to test if you were revising enough or not, or were you mindful about reading them or not. So BRICS in Africa: partnership for mutually accelerated growth, healthy sustainable development, and inclusive multilateralism. Then BRICS in Africa: partnership for growth for all, sustainable development, and inclusive multilateralism. BRICS in Africa: partnership for mutually accelerated growth, sustained development, and exclusive multilateralism. BRICS in Africa: partnership for mutually accelerated growth, sustainable development, and inclusive multilateralism. This can be, of course, eliminated because it's written exclusive. It always has to be inclusive. Then, of the 3, the correct answer will be option D: partnership for mutually accelerated growth, sustainable development, and inclusive multilateralism. You just have to be mindful. Whoever is the chair for the current summit will be deciding the agenda. It is South Africa right now, so that is why South Africa has decided D. Option D will be the correct answer. Prime Minister Modi is set to visit South Africa, specifically Johannesburg, for the BRICS summit that will be conducted from August 22nd to 24th. And there has been an indication from China that about the Chinese President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Modi having a bilateral meeting on the sidelines of it. Let's see what happens. It will be very important meeting. So BRICS is a group of certain countries: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. So Brazil, South Africa, Russia, India, China. And these specific countries are a group of emerging economies. The economic weightage is too huge to ignore. And this group was actually coined to be so by a British economist from Goldman Sachs, that was Jim O'Neill. In 2001, he was the one who coined the term BRIC, B-R-I-C, not BRICS, but B-R-I-C, because South Africa joined later on. And also South Africa wasn't a point in the first coining of the term. And it was said that 4 emerging economies, these will be, from the investor's perspective, if they want to invest in which economy, the biggest returns will they be getting from, it will be these countries. And he never said that it will be a trading bloc. He never said that. And collectively, they have become a major global economy, representing 42% of the world's population, 30% of the world's territory, 23% of the GDP, and 18% of the world's trade. Vladimir Putin played a very important role in initiating this particular grouping. In 2006, there was an informal summit that happened between Russia, India, and China, and that was at the sidelines of the G8 Outreach Summit. After 2014's Crimean expansion, Russia was kicked out of the G8, and the first formal meeting was in 2009, also in Russia. South Africa joined in 2010, expanding it to BRICS. Okay, the chairmanship rotates annually, and the current chair is South Africa, which has said that this particular 15th summit will have an agenda of this particular theme. Okay, I hope you understood it. Who among the following is known as the architect of Tripura? Maharaja Bir Bikram Kishore Manikya, Bir Chandra Manikya, Kirit Bikram Kishore Manikya, Maharaja Radha Kishore Manikya. So the correct answer to this question will be option A, Maharaja Bir Bikram Kishore Manikya of the Manikya dynasty. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi on 19th of August remembered him, and that was his 115th birth anniversary. He was the last king of Tripura, Bir Bikram Kishore Manikya Bahadur. He is popularly known as the architect of Tripura because of his immense developmental work that he undertook during his reign, and specifically in the education field. And Maharaja Colonel Bir Bikram Kishore Manikya Dev Barman Bahadur, he was called, of the Manikya dynasty. And he is credited with the planning of the capital of Tripura, the Agartala city, and also initiated land reforms to reserve vast tract of lands for the tribal population of Tripura. He also built Tripura's first airport at Agartala. During his reign, one of the country's first municipality was also developed. He built schools and started Tripura's first university. So, lot of laurels he brought to Tripura. India has secured second rank at the 16th International Olympiad on Astronomy and Astrophysics in Chorzów, Poland. Which of the following is the first ranker? USA, UK, France, Germany. The correct answer should be commented in the comment segment. Let me take the names of those students who have answered the last question correctly. Okay, so stay with me for a moment so that I can do so. Om has answered it correctly. Maria has answered it correctly. Ria, Mandeep, Swapna, M.R. Tiwari, Manas, Prabhat. No, Prabhat has answered it correctly. It is actually Uttarakhand, Prabhas. Rishabh has answered it correctly. Chetan has answered it correctly. B.G. Rao, Vishwajit, Sanjay, Ankush, Abhishek, Priyadarshan, Kabilan, Yash Jain, Simran, Komal, Utkal, Shubhank, Dilshad, Nikhil, Mansi, Tejas, my mobile phone, please write your names, okay? User, you all have answered it correctly. Others who have answered it correctly also include Pragati, Birdsong, Om, also Hira, Shrikant, Priyan, Shivdev, Vasundhara, Nushrat, Raj Joshi, Preeti, Rajesh, Ritik Singh, Mukul. Thank you so much for answering the last question correctly. Answer this as well. Thank you so much.
StudyIQ IAS. अब तैयारी हुई अफोर्डेबल।